The Israeli and Palestinian delegations continue ceasefire talks in Cairo as the Israel Defense Force prepares for the resumption of rocket fire. In Iraq, Kurdish forces claim they're about to retake the Mosul Dam as displaced people from the Yazidi minority are being trained to pick up arms to fight Islamic militants. And in Missouri, the governor approves the deployment of the National Guard in the St. Louis suburb of Ferguson as violent protests continue following the killing of an unarmed black teenager. Hello and welcome to i24 News. I'm David Matlin now with a look at the hour's top stories. We begin with the conflict between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. According to IDF officials, the Israeli army is preparing for the resumption of rocket fire from Gaza as early as this evening. The diplomats believe the ceasefire negotiations in Cairo are headed to a deadlock. Israel estimates that militants in Gaza who claim not to follow orders from Hamas may break the truce. A senior IDF officer said that the exchange of fire between Gaza militants and Israel may also turn into a longer war of attrition. However, the Israeli Home Front Command has not yet issued any special instructions for residents of the southern communities closest to the Israel-Gaza border. Well, yesterday, Hamas officials were quoted as saying that they were holding out in hopes of getting more concessions in the Egyptian-mediated talks. Well, i24 News reporter Shai Ben-Ari takes a look at the last 24 hours of talks between Israel and Hamas.
It seems Israel and Hamas are still nowhere near reaching a settlement that will officially bring the current conflict to a close. As talks in Cairo continue, reports have noted progress on the issues of goods and people crossing the border in and out of Gaza, but it appears both sides are very far apart on the matter of Palestinian demilitarization, as well as Hamas's demands regarding the construction of air and seaports.
The Israeli delegation to Cairo from the first day is working under very clear instructions to stand steadfast on Israel's security needs. Only if there is a clear solution to our security needs, only then will we be prepared to come to an understanding.
According to Palestinian reports, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas has been pressuring Hamas leader Khalid Mashal to accept the Egyptian proposal currently on the table.
Our goal is to stop the fight and to stick to the Egyptian initiative and not any other one.
However, both Israel and Hamas have stated that they are also open to a return to the battlefield if a resolution is not achieved.
As long as calm does not return, Hamas will continue to sustain very harsh strikes. If Hamas thinks that we cannot withstand it for an extended period, it is mistaken.
It remains a very real possibility that the current conflict will end with no official agreement in place, though it is likely Israel will agree to humanitarian aid entering the Strip in any case. In this scenario, quiet will depend on deterrence, but past experience suggests it may not last for long.
Well, meanwhile, the Israeli army demolished houses belonging to the families of two Palestinians who were the main suspects in the abduction and killing of 3 Israeli teenagers in the West Bank this last June. Well, the kidnapping of the teens ignited a cycle of violence that eventually led to the military operation currently taking place in the Gaza Strip. Well, troops set charges to destroy the homes of Hassam Kouasme and Ahmad Abu Aisha in the southern West Bank before dawn and sealed off the home of a third suspect, Marwan Kouasme. Well, according to a statement by the Norwegian Foreign Ministry, Norway and Egypt hope to plan a donor conference on Palestine in Cairo. Well, the conference would focus on the reconstruction of Gaza that in turn will be led by the West Bank-based Palestinian Authority. As soon as Israel and Hamas agree to a sustainable truce, well, the Norwegian government said that the donor conference had the support of the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. The government gave no date, though Oslo has previously said it aimed to host a donor conference at the beginning of September. Well, now in Iraq, Kurdish forces say they're about to complete the retaking of the Mosul Dam, the country's largest dam and hydroelectric power source. Well, losing control of the facility may mark the biggest setback yet for the Islamic State since they launched their offensive in Iraq in June. Meanwhile, Kurdish PKK fighters have joined Peshmerga forces in their ongoing fight against the Sunni militants. i24 News correspondent Ayman Siksek has the story.
A new turn of events is taking place in Iraq today, as U.S. and Kurdish forces are reportedly advancing on the Mosul Dam. The joint operation to reclaim the dam from Islamic State militants entails U.S. airstrikes and a ground military action carried out by the Peshmerga, the armed Kurdish fighters.
We must resist. We must reclaim Bashika by any means. Hopefully, with the help of God and the strength of the Peshmerga on this front line, we will retake Bashika with minimal losses.
The dam in the city of Mosul is a strategic stronghold as it supplies water and electricity to northern Iraq. Islamic State combatants had taken control of the dam earlier in August. But sources in the Iraqi government are warning that collaborations of this kind with the U.S. will result in the destruction of Iraq. On Saturday, German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier visited a temporary shelter for Christian refugees at Mar Yusuf Church in the city of Erbil and addressed the volatile humanitarian situation in Iraq.
Spent already €4.5 million for humanitarian aid, and the German cabinet has decided on Wednesday this week that we are spending another €20 million for humanitarian aid. Yes.
Deposed Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki leaves behind a legacy of profound sectarianism, which the US-backed al-Abadi, Iraq's new leader, is expected to reverse. Iraq's most influential cleric, Grand Ayatollah al-Sistani, spoke in support of the new Prime Minister.
Without a doubt, the completion of the process to fill the 3 presidential posts and the regional and international welcome is a rare and positive opportunity to solve all Iraq's problems, especially the political and security ones.
But as the U.S. deepens its involvement in the country's state of affairs, the Iraqi people, still besieged by the Islamic State's continuous attacks, seemed doubtful about the prospect of a new hope.
We're now to the United States, where Missouri Governor Jay Nixon has ordered the deployment of the National Guard in the town of Ferguson following a week of violent protests over last week's killing of unarmed black teenager Mike Brown. Initial autopsy reports, meanwhile, have been released, indicating Brown was shot at least 6 times, including twice in the head. Well, i24News reporter Danny Swibell has the report.
Authorities on Sunday had imposed a midnight curfew for the second night in a row in the tense St. Louis suburb, where an unarmed black teen was shot to death last week by police. The state of Missouri hopes to secure an elusive peace as protesters continue to gather. Civil rights activist Al Sharpton called for justice Sunday at a rally for Michael Brown and questioned authorities' decision to release a video allegedly of Brown robbing a store.
In all of my life, I've never seen nothing more despicable than while this mother and this father and their families haven't even had the time to bury their son, the police chief would release a tape trying to disparage his name while his mama's still weeping.
I had a chance to...
Missouri Governor Jay Nixon conceded that the announcement that Brown had been a suspect in the robbery of a convenience store and the subsequent releasing of this video footage should not have happened and had no connection to Brown's shooting.
Our security team and the Highway Patrol did not know that was going to be released. I don't think the Attorney General knew that. And quite frankly, we disagree deeply. I think for 2 reasons. Number one, to attempt to, in essence, disparage the character of this victim. And secondarily, it did put the community and, quite frankly, the region and the nation, on alert again.
The sounds of protest and smell of tear gas still fills the air of Ferguson. This killing has opened a wound in Ferguson and throughout the United States, not to be healed overnight or perhaps anytime soon.
And now just an update from Iraq. Iraqi authorities claim they have now successfully retaken the Mosul Dam from ISIS fighters there, from militants from the Islamic State. Again, we don't know exactly who took part in that effort, but we know that the dam has been retaken by Iraqi authorities. Again, we'll keep you updated, and thank you for joining us here. That's all now for this hour's segment of the headlines. I'm David Matlin.